All right, for those of you who are joining us, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. My name is Ariana Ward and I'll be your host for this evening's chat. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar brought to you by Girls on Track UK, managed by Motorsport UK. We have an exciting session lined up for you this evening and I'm thrilled to introduce our special guests, Lyndsay Close and Charlotte White. They'll be sharing their insights and experiences as successful championship coordinators. We'll be talking about how they got into the sport, the ins and outs of their roles, and a whole lot more. A little bit about myself. I've been involved in motorsport for quite a few years now, starting operationally in GT3s before moving into the championship side of Formula E, and now working agency side at an F1 comms and sponsorship agency. And in my spare time, I also enjoy using my tech knowledge and comms skills in presenting, which is what brings me here today. So tonight, there's actually a lot of people joining us. We've had over 900 people register for this event tonight. That's our biggest ever number. So we're going to get started in just a few seconds, but we wanted to give everyone a chance to join. So while we're waiting, I just thought we'd go over a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, this webinar is being recorded and will be available after the event on the Girls on Track UK Facebook page, as well as Motorsport UK's YouTube channel. You can also head over there to watch any of our previous webinars you might have missed out. Now, during today's session, we encourage you to join in by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to submit your questions at any time and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Now, let's quickly test out that Q&A function. Leave us a comment down below telling us where in the world you're tuning in from. I'll kick things off. I'm joining from Wimbledon. How about you, Lyndsay?
Well, I'm actually in a ridiculous part of the country for motorsports. I'm based just shy of Scotland in a little place called Northumberland. But I always say in the grand scheme of things, if you know where Knockhill is and you know where Croft is, I'm exactly halfway between.
Perfect. And how about you, Charlotte?
I'm in South Wales, so I'm in between Cardiff and Swansea.
Oh, nice. I can see Tara's joining from Wales. We have Natalia from Colombia as well, and Alejandra from Mexico. So it's nice to see we have a UK audience as well as international guests. So thank you for joining. Well, with that said, I think we're about ready to kick things off. So again, thank you to our special guests tonight, Lyndsay Close and Charlotte White. We're here to discuss their roles as championship coordinators in motorsport. So let's dive into it, shall we? Starting with you, Lyndsay, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce your role to us?
Yeah, of course. So I have been in predominantly the BRSCC paddock. I have done a few stints elsewhere in other paddocks for almost a decade, which is quite terrifying when I look back at my time. I was very young in those photos, which I don't want to discuss. Yes, I've ran a multitude of different championships. And now as a senior coordinator in the paddock, Charlotte's actually my boss. So I work under Charlotte and I am the main gatekeeper basically between all information revenues. So that's clerks, scrutineers, timekeepers, drivers. I'm the go-between everybody.
Oh, perfect. And how about you, Charlotte?
So I'm the event operations manager for the BRSCC. Had previously coordinated for about 6 years. And I studied motorsport at university as well.
Oh, perfect. Amazing. Now, Charlotte, you have a bachelor's degree in motorsport management, right? And you've had a really diverse career in the industry so far. So can you share a little bit about your journey and what led you to your current role at the BRSCC?
Yes, so putting it very bluntly, I got into motorsport because I failed my AS levels.
Oh.
At the time, which was a very long time ago, I wanted to study law, but given my grades, I didn't think I was going to be accepted, so I had a very short amount of time to completely rethink my entire life at the age
wow. Maybe it was meant to be, led you on to the right calling.
Definitely. And we would actually, my family and I had attended an event at Silverstone. That was the World Series by Renault event, and I picked up a prospectus and flicking through it, and I saw motorsport management, and something just clicked, and that's what I wanted to do. So I did all my resits. I dropped a couple of subjects, and I was very fortunate to be accepted onto all the applications that I put forward. I only had one in motorsport. So I went to university at UWTSD Swansea. And I got involved in the racing teams. I volunteered for the MIA, which is the Motorsport Industry Association. They're the global trade association for the motorsport sector. I was there as a project assistant for 2 years, so I helped the wider team on their events, membership, finance, things like that. I then moved to Rockingham Motor Speedway, and I was in venue sales, corporate experience days, and race day hospitality. And that's actually where I was put in contact with the BRSCC and became a coordinator's assistant for Greg Graham, Clive Brookson, and Dan Collett in the BMW Compact Cup. I was made redundant from Rockingham when they closed and then moved into the composite sector. I don't have an engineering background, so that was quite interesting, learning a completely different industry. So I started out there in sales for surface treatments for carbon fibre, fiberglass, things like that. I then moved to Composites UK to work with the trade association for the UK composite sector. And I was the supply chain relationship manager. So I looked after our members. I went and visited different companies to learn about what they did. I wrote the UK industry report for the composite sector, which tracked trends, estimated the size of the industry, looked at the different markets. It was actually really interesting. During the time from me being at Rockingham and starting out as a coordinator's assistant to Composites UK, I was entrusted by the BRSCC to run the Club Sport Trophy, which is one of their series. And I also worked for the C1 Racing Club as a weekend coordinator. I absolutely loved my job at Composites UK, and I had no intention of leaving it. And then the BRSCC offered me my dream job.
Oh.
I couldn't really turn it down. So yeah, here I am.
Oh, amazing. It sounds like you've done a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And Lyndsay, you've been a senior championship coordinator within the BRSCC paddock for 10 years, I believe. So I'm curious, what initially drew you to your role and what keeps you passionate about it all this time?
Well, where do I start? The honest truth is, my husband, he started racing and he done all his research in the different clubs and everything, and he settled on the BRSCC. And I would go along with him at the time, 10 years ago, girlfriend coming with the boyfriend, watching racing, and just totally fell in love with it. But one thing I did massively realise is there wasn't back then, there wasn't really a place for a girlfriend. It was lads. Come away for a weekend, have a lads weekend. And like, for example, the race team that we were paying thousands to look after my husband at the time, they literally took my chair and put it out in the rain, and they went, we don't have room for you in my awning.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, I was like, I want to change that. That's not good enough for me. So I approached the wonderful woman that was running the championship at the time, Mandy, and she went, yeah, come help me. And that taught me that shy Ben's getting out, which those of you that are not from this part of my area will know that if you don't ask, you just don't know if you're going to get. And that's kind of been my mantra following it through. But from doing it and then learning and finding my feet and going from quite literally not knowing anything about being in a paddock to now being able to say I've ran multiple different championships, headed up championships, started championships from the beginning, and then Charlotte went and got her dream job and stitched me up and gave me Club Sport, her baby. So I look after her road series at Club Sport now, and then have my own baby that I raised from the ground up, City Car Cup, and then help out with all the other paddocks whenever need be. And I just keep coming back, because the one thing Charlotte can attest to this is you don't do it because it's a job. You do it because you love it. The passion and seeing people's faces is amazing. And for me, my main thing that I love doing is being that person that can facilitate somebody's dream. If people spend their whole lives waiting to get out on track and finally become a racing driver, and to get there and it be a bit, oh yeah, you've just gone out, and yeah, no, I love to be oh my God, this is amazing. And I don't call myself, so most of the Mazda paddock call me their professional hype woman, because I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's get on track. And it's just to see their faces become elated with what they're doing. Just
Oh,
phenomenal.
that's amazing to see. And Charlotte, we've actually got a question for you already. Someone is asking, if I studied sports business management, could I then go on into motorsport management?
I don't see any reason why not. So to put it in perspective, as much as my degree was motorsport management, it was a logistics and supply chain degree with applied motorsport at the time. There are other degrees out there now that do offer motorsport management. Some of them are attached to engineering, some of them aren't. But I think the most valuable thing that I would say is that regardless of what degree you're doing, volunteer, get involved in things, whether that's as a coordinator, just get yourself in the paddock, get yourself marshalling, learn to be the clerk of the course, learn to be a scrutineer, learn to be a race secretary. There's so many roles within a racing paddock that, you know, there's always opportunities there, whether that's with the BRSCC or the other clubs. We're all in the same position. We all run on volunteers. But yeah, I don't see any reason why sports management wouldn't be an option.
And they're screaming out. Sorry, Ariana, but
No, please go ahead.
For people to volunteer. So by all means, jump on Motorsports UK website and see how to get involved.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And Lyndsay, while we're with you, I was going to ask more about your roles and responsibilities. So, in terms of your role, what the wide range of tasks that you have under your belt, including keeping events on time, having to assist scrutineers and clerks of the course. Can you walk us through what a typical race day would look like for you?
Yeah, for me, one thing I will say is every coordinator does their job differently. After 10 years, I like to think I've honed in on what I do now. But my typical day is you get there before anybody else. In fact, the only person that normally gets there before me is Charlotte. And that's only because I've been sent to go get the coffees. And then you don't leave until the last person's left. But from my day is, so I'm going to run through this very quickly. So I do apologize. But if anybody wants to know a bit more of a breakdown, please feel free to contact me. I get there, I do the walk around to make sure all my drivers are there, all my cars are there, check in with HQ, get radios, make sure everybody's got my contact details. Then it's drivers briefing. Chase everybody up for that, get them in, make sure everybody knows the lay of the land, introduce yourself to any new people. Then it's straight away you're chasing them for assembly area, getting them in, making sure all the cars are matching the regulations of that championship, getting them out on track, going up to race control, making sure that the clerks don't need anybody. Hope and pray they never need anybody after a race event. And then if they do, you go down to Park Vermeer, you let the drivers know they need to go see the clerk. Then podium, my favourite bit of the whole weekend. And then TV presenters, so I also check in with them to make sure if they want to know anybody, if they need any tips or advice on anything. Same with the commentators. If they don't really know the paddock, then they might need you to give them some little tidbits. And then scrutineer, you help them scrutineer, and then you do exactly the same thing for each and every race afterwards, until the end of the day. And then before you know it, you look up and there's barbecues on the go and people are packing up and leaving and new people are coming in and you go, right, okay, time to go.
Absolutely. And we actually had one question sent in earlier for you, Lyndsay, that I think you'd be well placed to answer, which was, how do you manage to keep everything arranged during race weeks? And would you say that's something that's easy to do, or how do you go about it?
Honestly, it's not easy. And I'm going to be totally honest, it's not easy at all. But my main key and strategy for that is just to be organized, be on it, and communicate everything. So me and Charlotte and every other coordinator in that paddock are constantly messaging each other. Where are you? Do you need help? How about this? What's going on there? Why is that driver not in? And it's just, you have to keep the lines open. Otherwise you can very easily miss something, because you can wear blinders for what you're doing at that moment when there might be 20 other things going on.
Yeah. And anything to add to that, Charlotte?
No, I think Lyndsay's right. There's a lot of people, like I say, there's a lot of people that go into making a race weekend happen. And yes, the coordinators are in touch pre-race event, just to let them know what information's been sent out, so they're not going in blind to any situation. But on race day, we're working directly with the clerks of the course who are running it on circuit. We're then working with the scrutineers in Parc Ferme. So if anything's come up there, then we're aware of it. We liaise with the marshals in assembly to make sure that everyone who should be there is there, and if they aren't there, try and find a reason for it so they know, so they can communicate that to their team. So there's lots of little teams within a racing paddock operations team. But yeah, communication's key, and like Lyndsay says, being organised is it's a given.
Absolutely. And Charlotte, your responsibilities include the paddock side of organising race meetings and other events like the Fiesta Junior Scholarship. So what are some of the key challenges you face in organising these events, and how have you overcome them in the past?
So we as an operations team, so at head office, we're a very small team. We plan the paddocks, the timetables, organise scrutineers, clerks, everything like that, recovery units, ambulances, doctors. So we try and plan for as many different eventualities as possible there, but there's always the chance that something unexpected comes up. On the day, it's usually due to incidents on circuit or adverse weather that are going to throw us completely, potentially. So what we do in the paddock is we try and gain time back as much as we can. So that means getting our drivers to assembly early, so that when a session on circuit is finished, if there's nothing that needs clearing or nothing that needs resetting, we can just get the next championship or series out on circuit, and we gain quite a bit of time back, so that if something was to happen, we've potentially got something there that safeguards our drivers, our team, so that we don't run the risk of having to cut races short if we don't have to. And in its absolute worst case, which from memory, I don't think since I've been with the BRSCC full time we've had to do, is where we've had to completely cut a race from a race meeting and then try and find somewhere else to put it in, which is equally as difficult, because we have a limited amount of time over the course of a weekend, and we try and fill it as best we can for every single event. So yeah, we try and plan for everything, and then we go with it if something crops up that we've not prepared for. With other events like the scholarship or Driven by Racing or an awards dinner, again, we try and plan for everything. If something comes up, then we deal with it, we make it work, we find a solution. But then that helps us for the next event, that's happened, and there's the potential that's happened, and this is what we did to fix it, this is what we did to rectify it. So yeah, we try and plan as much as we possibly can, but you can never plan for everything.
Absolutely. It sounds like you just have to be ready for anything to happen and always be ready to be reactive, I guess.
Yes.
Good running shoes.
Running shoes are important. We've got a really fantastic team within the BRSCC, both at head office and then the wider group of volunteers, who are incredible at their roles, and they make my job easier. They make it easier for the coordinators because they know what they're doing, so we don't have to worry about that. If they need us for something, they'll get us involved. Otherwise, we trust them to do their role, and that goes for everyone within the paddock.
Absolutely. And then I wanted to ask you both about mentoring opportunities and networking. So starting with you, Lyndsay, who has been a mentor or a significant influence in your career, and what impact did that have on your professional development?
I'll be honest, there's more than a few names that pop to mind.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. And good for us, all women.
Oh, nice.
So when I started out, there was the most wonderful woman ever who took me under her wing, called Mandy, and she was the championship coordinator at the time, and she had a mammoth task of her for running 3 or 4 of the same sort of championships as the Mazda championships. And there's one time it was split into 4 different groups within sort of the Mazda bracket. So you're talking looking after hundreds of people, and then hundreds more when you build in their support network. And there was Mandy, and then there was three of us, and one of the other ladies was called Esther. Now Esther's still with us, she still works with me, and she's a very dear friend of mine and Charlotte. And by all means, as time grows, like we work together, we learned so much, we just became an unstoppable force in that paddock. We were known as like Mandy's Angels, and it was a marvelous time, and we were just there for each other no matter what, which was a huge thing to have when you're in a paddock, because you are literally dispersed by yourself in all weather conditions, potentially with no radio, no phone signal, no internet, and you just have to be able to know what you're doing at any time and what's going on in 50 different other places. And Esther was somebody that really, like, she nicknames herself my mammy in the paddock. She's a lot older than me, but she absolutely just kind of took me and went, right, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to attack it. And she got me to the level that I needed to be at. And she's went away and done her own thing, I went away and done my own thing, but in the last couple of years we've come back together, still coordinating but different things. And we were sat just reminiscing, thinking, wow, this is incredible where we've come from and the change that's happened. But then that's filtered down where a lot more women have come through, and we've been able to train them and help them. But I can't end this without saying the woman that changed it all for me, because there was a moment about 2 years ago that I went, I'm not really sure if I can give everything that I want to give in a paddock anymore. And it was really weighing on me, and I thought, maybe I just have to give this up. I can't keep going and doing this. And then Charlotte got her job as events manager, operation goddess. And she came together at the time. I know I've said that, like, we were an unstoppable force as a team. We were a very small, lucky team. Most coordinators work by themselves. And Charlotte was somebody that worked by herself running club sport and doing the BMW Compact Cup. So we were all quite singular as a coordinator. And when Charlotte got her job, she did this phenomenal thing where she brought us together. And if it wasn't for Charlotte, I don't think I would still be here. So Charlotte's definitely taught me how to keep going, how to persevere, how to get through to that next step and turn up for not just everybody else, but for myself. So I couldn't do it without Charlotte, to be honest.
Oh, amazing. It's so nice to see that you girls support each other in the paddock together all these years. And then Charlotte, same for you. In terms of, I'm sure, networking, you've also had a similar career path with having to build your own networks and relationships. So can you provide some tips maybe on how to effectively network within the motorsport industry? There's a lot of girls in particular who are asking us at the moment if there's any opportunities to volunteer, and if so, what's the best place to look for that? I don't know if you could maybe elaborate on that at all.
Yeah, so networking is important in any industry you're in, but it's very different dependent on the environment. So when I was in composites, it was conferences and networking events and trade shows. Motorsport is different in the sense that you don't have as many conferences. You're in a paddock. That's what motorsport or leads to. It leads to the paddock. I would say that having business cards is invaluable. They don't need to be flashy. They don't need to be groundbreaking in their design. They just need to be clear, concise, because as much as we all have smartphones and we can all put each other's numbers into phones, it gets lost in your contacts. Where if you've still got something physical, in my opinion, it works a lot better. But I think if you get yourself involved, you start building that network. So whether that's marshalling, you don't know who you're going to be with on post. And those people who, you could be with marshals who've been doing this for years and they've got contacts within some of the teams. It depends on where you're being set up. If you become a timekeeper, there's so many opportunities there because there's so many different events that, the timing companies like TSL, who we work with specifically, they don't just work in the UK, they work overseas. You've then got the scrutineers, a lot of them are engineers, and every single driver has to go and see a scrutineer. So that's probably one of the best places to go. If you go and learn and train to become a clerk of the course, you're understanding that side of the track, so that if you do then go and work in a team, you have that experience, you have some of that knowledge that is important for the drivers, for the team, mechanics, everything like that, with coordinators. Again, you're in the paddock constantly. You understand what the stresses are for the teams. You understand where the sagging points are. You know what makes them tick, and you can work with that. Again, race secretaries, they're seeing everything that Motorsport UK need from an organising club. So the paperwork, you're seeing the decision sheets, the information that comes from the scrutineers. There's just so many different opportunities available, whether that's with a club like the BRSCC, but there are also other disciplines within motorsport that we personally aren't involved with. So rallying and hill climbs, there are so many other avenues into this industry, and you don't know who you're going to meet. And it might not, if you're looking to get into Formula One or top level GTs, all right, a standard club meeting, you might not meet the head of engineering for a top Formula One team, but you might meet someone who does work for that Formula One team, or who does work for that GT team. And that's how you build that network. That's how networking works. It's that, 6 degrees of separation? You don't know who you're going to meet in a paddock. And the more you get involved, the more that you understand the environment, the easier everything will be.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you, Charlotte. And then in terms of talking about your career development and how you both got into your roles, Lyndsay, starting with you, what advice would you give to someone who's aspiring to become a championship coordinator, especially in regards to those skills and attributes that are really crucial for your role?
I just think there's a few things that I'd say are absolutely key to be a coordinator in a paddock. And one of them is you've got to be organised. You've got to be able to just be able to communicate with all different levels of people. It is a high stress environment. So you will have, for example, drivers coming off track where the adrenaline's still pumping, and they get out and they've had a really bad race. And the first person they want to talk to is you, because you're the official. And they come at you and they don't mean it at the time, but they can be really in your face, and you've got to be able to keep calm. And you've got to be able to think ahead. Like, I know when this is happening, I also my mind needs to be able to figure out what's going on over there. And the most crucial part of the whole situation is you've got to be able to jump in. There is no time to think. You've got to be able to jump in. I need to be over there now. I need to get that message to them. That person needs that. I need to be able to go over there. And if you aren't willing to just pick up any task anywhere, for example, even as a senior, I don't think it's beneath me if one of the championship coordinators is like, oh God, I've got so much going on. And then I'll go, don't worry, I'll unpack your trophies for you. I'll get podium set up. I'll chase your drivers. You deal with what's going on over there. You've just got to be able to jump in and know that it's going to be reciprocated. No one is never going to say, oh no, I don't want the help. So everybody needs help, and it's just being able to say, let me help you. And the same as if you want to start out, I literally started by going up to somebody and going, can I help you? I want to help. Let me get involved. So it's just as simple as asking.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree that a paddock is such a chaotic environment, especially on race day, that you really just have to be a team player and be ready to get stuck in, as you say.
100%.
Yeah. And then Charlotte, having worked in various sectors within the motorsport industry, I'm curious, what skills and experiences do you think are most valuable for someone looking to build a career in motorsport management?
So I think what Lyndsay said a minute ago is so true. It's admitting when you need help. I have a tendency that was seen quite a lot last year when it was a bit of it was a struggle at times last year in my first season full time with the BRSCC, and I didn't ask for help, and I got myself into a right state that I didn't need to. If I'd have just said I could do with, I need someone to lend me a hand. I'm getting better at it. I'm still not 100% there. But yeah, asking for help, and it's knowing that, it's not just the race team, tour teams, it's everybody else. So you'll see if we've got a really tight timetable where we've got back-to-back sessions, especially for championships like the Mazdas, or where Clarks are doubling up on championships that they're running the races for. you'll see that other clerks are prepared to step in and help them if they're not running their own races or dealing with their own judicials. People are always willing to help. So it's that admitting that you need help and also offering to help. The other thing, and it's come from composites as well, is speaking up. If you feel that strongly about something, and based on your knowledge and your experiences, and you aren't going to agree with everything that everyone says. If you've got something to say and you feel that strongly about it, then say it. Nothing's going to get done otherwise, and then you're going to get frustrated and wound up because you think or you've got an idea in your head that is going to work, but if you don't voice it, no one's going to know about it. So where I'm the main point of contact for all of our coordinators, Lyndsay is responsible for training our new coordinators. I don't have the capacity to do it, but we're in a position where we could do with more assistance. We could do with more coordinators to take on other series or new things that are coming up. Because I don't have the capacity for it, and Lyndsay might not have it all the time, but we work together. And if we've got someone who's really interested in coordinating, then we'll say, well, can you come along and help this person with this championship? So they're getting a different feel for things. But yeah, it's just, you've got to find your own place. You've got to find who you are in a paddock, and once you've found that, everything else becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And then we've actually also had a question from somebody asking if you think there are any specific skills or recommended training that you would advise people to look at other than just college degrees. Are there any online courses maybe they could look at, or something such as?
So there are the standard routes of going to college and university. Actually, before I came on this, I was on LinkedIn, and there's a new apprenticeship come up in motorsport. Apprenticeships are quite big in motorsport and engineering because it's easier to, I could go and do my master's in engineering now, but I'd be no good if you put me in front of a race car with a load of spanners. I wouldn't know what I was looking at. But that's not my skill set. But for other people, it's their bread and butter. It's what they're in motorsport to do. So there are apprenticeships, there are online degrees that you can do with I believe it's the National College for Motorsport. There are different avenues that you can go down. What I would say is there are so many different agencies and platforms within the motorsport sector that you can find by searching the internet or using platforms like LinkedIn. Just get yourselves out there, and you'll see things, and you'll see what the requirements are, what the industry is looking for right now. So a lot of the time you will see a lot of mechanics roles and engineering roles, but then there could be something that pops up, and the same position I was in when I found my degree. I didn't think it existed, but it was there, and it just fit and it clicked, and that's then what I work towards. So just do your research. I think that's the easiest way of doing it. And then come along to the race meet and see what you think. And it might be that circuit racing isn't for you, but you much prefer rallying, or you prefer hill climbs and sprints. Just go and get a feel for what's out there, or even bike racing. We don't do anything with it on two wheels specifically. Some cars do end up on two wheels, but the bike racing part of the industry, part of the sport is huge. So there are different opportunities, there are different environments that, people are best suited to.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd add, Lyndsay?
Yeah, I was about to say, so my husband actually did the online motorsports engineering degree. He was an engineer by trade anyway, and then did this course. But what he found his route in was he got a car, he started racing, he worked on it himself, and then he discovered this course and did it. And then through that, he now runs his own race team. But he's also had the opportunity of, because he's in a paddock and he's talking to people, somebody will go, oh, my friend's looking for a mechanic or an engineer for next weekend when they're going to Spa. And it's about the people unfortunately, a lot in this industry. It was one thing I didn't really realize. It was more about getting out there, speaking to people, and then you'll be more front in their mind rather than just receiving an email. But then saying that, I got quite far with going, I just kept emailing people, hi, do you need help? What's going on? Can I come to a race event? And someone somewhere will say it and go, oh my God, somebody's offered me help for that race weekend. Please come and help me. But yeah, I would say, just following on from Charlotte, it's about getting out there. I don't necessarily think there should be. So I've done a degree and I found it completely useless. I'll be totally honest. It was completely useless and I didn't know what to do with it afterwards. And I ended up then falling into the trap of just getting a normal job and having to find my way out. And as much as I appreciate the time, because it taught me a lot of skills, it was in fine art. That was never going to get me into a motorsports career. So I find a lot of the time apprenticeships are the best way. Getting out there, speaking to people, working your way up, learning from the ground up is huge. I just don't think you have to pinpoint that you have to do a degree or some form of learning, because 99% of the time, the motorsport industry is so far advanced compared to most other industries. They will look at paper and go, that's great for you that you have a degree, but we want somebody with practical skills. So getting out there and going to teams, hi, can I come learn from you? Can I spanner for you for a weekend? They are going to snap your hands off and be like, please come. Because we are, anybody that contacts us, we're like, please come. Definitely come help us. We always need more help. And then from that, you get relevant experience, and then you can go off and apply for those jobs because you've got the experience from it. So there's many different ways.
100%. And where would you recommend people look to find those contacts?
Honestly, I find Facebook to be unbelievable.
Okay.
So Facebook groups, we have personally a lot of drivers groups for my championships, and drivers will go on there, but it's also the teams are on it. And if you put hi, like get into, like, for example, my City Car Cup championship, there's a drivers group, like the Mazdas have one. And if you go onto it, it's free to join, and you can go, hi, I'm looking, anybody needs me to come help for a weekend, even if it's just putting the teas and coffees out for the team. I can guarantee you someone will be like, please come, I'll get you a ticket. So there's different ways.
Absolutely. And we've actually had one user ask as well, if you know anything about how to get in touch with motorsport groups outside of the UK, perhaps to get into volunteering a bit more. Maybe you're not the best place to answer that, but always worth a shot.
I've not personally done it myself, but I do have friends who are in this industry as commentators, and they, like, a shout out to Jake Sanson, he's broke the mold. He's managed to get out of the UK and get into Asia. He commentates on things in Mexico, and it's fabulous to see. And he did that just by doing the same as what I've said there. You go on, you find the group of people, either Facebook, LinkedIn, find their emails, and just write to them and go, hi, this is my skill set. This is what I can do. Can I come help?
That's amazing. Charlotte, would you add anything to that? Maybe any recommendations for them as well?
I mean, I would assume that the motorsport, the sport is very similar across different continents, different countries. So I think there's probably a lot of what we're saying is true for the sport overseas. So same again, get into those paddocks, speak to the governing bodies, find the teams, find the jobs boards. I would assume it's a similar sort of setup. The motorsport industry is very insular. So I think we all kind of operate off the same rule book.
Amazing. And then I wanted to ask you guys as well, if you had any particular setbacks in your career so far, and if so, how did you navigate that? Because I'm sure it's quite a challenging situation to face. Maybe starting with you, Charlotte.
So I've been very fortunate that within motorsport, I haven't had many setbacks. Which I'm very grateful for. I personally have found that the motorsport industry and the composite sector have both been very much on the premise, if you can do the job, you can do the job. It doesn't matter who you are. That's what's important. That's what people need. I suppose I had a bit of a setback after I left Rockingham. I enjoyed that job, and to then be made redundant and quickly change industries was hard. But I wasn't in a great place personally because of the team I was with at the time. And it was off the back of someone on LinkedIn who said, you know, if you're not happy, if you're burnt out, get out of it. Just take the risk. And that's what I did. And I ended up loving my job at Composites UK, and I had a really incredible job there. And had it not been for the BRSCC, I would still be there. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, I think for me, it's very much take the risk, give it a go. You're not going to know unless you try.
Absolutely. And how about you, Lyndsay? Is there anything in particular that stands out in your career?
Mine's a very slightly different setback. So when I started out as a coordinator, I just had a boyfriend and that was it. And since then, I've got married. I've had 2 kids. I apologize in advance because I can hear the baby crying, and I hope it doesn't come through. And I thought as soon as I had my first child, that's it. Like I can't go to race events. I can't work. I've got to be at home with the kids. And actually, it was through the BRSCC themselves and the drivers in my paddock. So I was working in the Mazda paddock at the time, and I was actually running it. And I, as the head coordinator, kind of was like, oh my God, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to give this up. I love this, but I can't do both. One little person's demanding everything, or 600 people are demanding everything, and I don't know where to go. And then the paddock went, it's fine, bring the baby. And I was like, what? And they were like, no, bring them, give it a shot, try. And I went, okay, yeah, same as Charlotte was saying, it's a risk, you've got to gamble. I'll go and I'll try. And then they were absolutely incredible. And now my 2 sons have 600 aunties and uncles. And I get there and I go, off you go. And then I'll see you at 5 o'clock. And at some point, someone is looking after them for me. Because it's a community, and the community does rally. That's one thing I've noticed. So no matter how hard of a time I'm having, or I have been known to have a complete breakdown, cry, or somebody said something awful to me, and I take everything quite personally. And this driver was like, you just can't do it. You're terrible. And I just burst into tears, but I had podium to do, and you have to put on a happy smile. You have to be excited for them. And all the drivers went, no, rally round, cuddle for Lyndsay. And then they went, right, okay, now we're going to start again. And you don't know that until you're there. You don't realize there's so many other people rallying for you and supporting you in so many different ways that you just would never expect.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that point about being a woman and looking at having kids and things, because that's such a challenge for us. I'm sure many of us wonder how to navigate that. So thank you for bringing that up. And that actually leads me very nicely onto my next question, which is, as a woman, have there been any big challenges that you faced in entering into motorsport? And if so, how did you face that?
Me?
Yeah, let's go for it. Why not?
Well, as well as doing motorsports for 10 years, I actually worked in the motor trade. So I've worked, ironically, in a very male-dominated industry. And 10 years ago, I wouldn't look anybody in the eye. I was too shy, wouldn't say anything, total introvert. And it's through finding ways to adapt and ways to get the job done that you kind of come out of it. And now I can happily stand there and give 60 men a what for, and be like, no, come on, stop acting like children. And it's hard to do, but I've found that through having other women that support me behind me, like Mandy, Esther, Katie, Charlotte, like everybody around me. I know that I can stand up and do it and then go have my breakdown privately, because they're stood there in the background with a bottle of wine like, don't worry, we've got you. And that's how I managed to get through it. Unfortunately, I can't give much more than that. It's just something that you have to overcome. And then Charlotte's been phenomenal for me, because she'll just grip the men and be like, no, absolutely not.
Lovely to see that you both support each other in that way when it's needed. And how about you, Charlotte? Has there been any major challenges as a woman that you really in particularly remember, and how have you faced that?
Like I said, I've been very fortunate, and I know there are women who have struggled and had a lot of challenges, and I would never wish to downplay that. But I think for me, it was when I was sat, and again, I'll keep going back to composites because it's where I I think I found myself in that job with Composites UK and worked out who I was as a person, I suppose. Which I have to say is quite liberating to be comfortable in your own skin. I stood up for myself. And then after that, and when the BRSCC first offered the opportunity of taking on club sport, I thought, okay, if they think I can do it, maybe I can do it. And I've got to give it a go. And I made it my own, like Lyndsay said, none of our coordinators coordinate the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone works differently. Everyone has a different way of operating. Whether that's, communicating on WhatsApp groups or whether it's just walking through the paddock at the top of your lungs telling them what to do.
Is that a dig? Is that a dig?
It was a dig at myself. But the motorsport industry has such a good support system, and someone said to me, a while ago, speaking about women in motorsport, and again, to any woman who has had the struggles and the challenges, I have the hugest amount of respect for you for overcoming that and persevering. And even if you didn't, and you've identified that, you know what, that you're not comfortable with it, fair play to you for acknowledging that, and choosing something else. But if you look at starting grids of cars, it's the cars and it's drivers with the helmets on, you don't know who they are. And it doesn't matter what gender they are, it doesn't matter their background or anything like that. If they win, if they win on circuit and they do it properly and within the rules, then they've done it, and they should be proud of themselves. Every single driver should be proud of themselves, but it's got nothing to do with them being a male or female. It's finding yourself as a person and being comfortable in how you operate and how you manage your area of the industry, whether that's in marshalling or clerking, scrutineering, being a timekeeper, being a coordinator, being a race secretary. Yes, there's a set parameter that we all have to adhere to, but you have a little bit of freedom in how you do it. So once you found that, I think everything becomes a lot easier. My experience in motorsport 9 to 5 is very different from someone who's in engineering or who's a mechanic, but it's so lovely to see so many more women in recent years in the paddock and mechanicking and being the engineers and being the strategists and seeing them on the pit wall, and it's fantastic. But they're not there because they're women, they're there because they can do the job, and it's fantastic to see.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. That's great advice. And then I wanted to touch on work-life balance for a second, because I'm sure we can all three agree that that's something we all struggle with at times to keep in check. So starting with you, Lyndsay, your role involves a lot of running around and, high levels of energy constantly throughout the day. And I think, that's something that we can all struggle to maintain day after day of racing across a race week. So how do you manage that balance and the demands of your jobs? And then, as you say, with your personal life as well?
It takes a lot of caffeine for me personally. No, it's hard. There's no two ways about it. In fact, Alton that I just did with Charlotte like 2 weeks ago, I found myself when I got home, my husband was like, how was it? And I went, I know it's a 48-hour period, but I've done 72 hours worth of work. It's insane. You just don't stop. And it is very highly demanding on you, because you've got to be that hype woman. You've got to be everywhere, answering to everybody. You've got to be on it at all times, and available to everybody 24/7 in essence. And the energy it takes, like especially like doing podiums, that's the memorable bit. And you've got to be there and you're like, come on, let's cheer everybody on. And I'm really passionate about trying to bring the community back together, because it's been quite lost with COVID. So I'm making sure I'm getting out there and walking around. Everybody knows where I am at any time. And it is hard. There's no easy two-way about it. It's physically and mentally demanding. I get to the end of a Sunday and I just have nothing left. I've given everything. But then I kind of love that, because I gave everything. I know I'm completely tapped out, but there wasn't anything more I could do. And that energizes me. Most of my 5, 6, 20 hours drive home, because I stupidly live in the north, is, you know, I'm smiling. I love it. And it makes me want to come back. But I really want to touch on my balance that I have at home. And it's being a mom, being a wife, having, because this is a volunteer role that I do, I have a full-time job. 99% of people in this industry have a full-time job. It's very rare to find somebody that's made it their full-time career. And not a lot of people realize that. Like, I'm getting drivers ringing me at 10 o'clock at night asking me questions, and I'm like, I'm trying to put my kids to bed. Obviously not at 10 o'clock at night, I will stress that. But you know, and they want an answer there and then, and I'm like, this isn't my full-time job. I'll get back to you when I get back to you. So it's having hard boundaries. I found during the week I will answer emails, but I won't do phone calls. They will know, all of my drivers know that they can get me at any point that they want, but it might take me a day or two to come back to them. And it is what it is. But on a weekend, I'm fully there for them. And it's just managing expectations. But again, couldn't do it if I didn't have my wonderful husband and, most importantly, my mum. Family is everything in this. Your support network is huge, because I found a lot of my friends are like, are you really not coming out at the weekend? I'm like, no, I'm going away racing. And a lot of people won't understand that I have a passion for this. I have a love for this. I have a responsibility. I have signed up to people to be there for them. And they're like, oh, can you not just skip it? It's not a job. It's a love. So it is that. But yeah, you've got to be really coordinated and knowing, right, I need to leave at this time, I need to be there, I need to do that. That work phone gets turned on and the personal phone gets turned off. And knowing that I'm leaving things behind as a mom is really difficult. And in fact, to the point where I've started bringing my babies and my husband with me and my mom with me. And I'm like, let's go away for a weekend, mom. She's like, where to? And I was like, I know this lovely nature reserve. It will be a 1-day thing. There's a little park in the corner, because most people don't realize, but razor beds are really set up for families. They really are. And then we'll turn up at Alton Park and she'll be like, we're at a racetrack. And I'll be like, I said it was a nature reserve. You know, it's pretty. Get on board with it. Look after my kids. I'll be back at 5 o'clock.
Sounds like you really have to compartmentalize.
Yeah, it is like that. It is it's full on, but as long as you can set expectations and boundaries, it's really it can be manageable. And then you need to be able to talk to people about the stresses. That's major for me. So
no, that's great advice. And same to you, Charlotte, especially considering that you organize multiple events, you handle various responsibilities. So that can also be quite demanding in your role. So how would you recommend maintaining a healthy work-life balance?
It's a lot better than it was last year. We've very fortunately taken on a sporting and operations administrator in Charlie, who has been a godsend for me especially. He's really helped in doing a lot of the pre-event work with me, and he's fantastic what he does. But what I've found is that, you know, I have a fantastic team that I work with during the week who are all incredible at what they do. And, you know, we each have our own area of the club, but there is crossover. But I also know that if I've had a tough race meeting or one of my colleagues has, then we can just put a message out, and you know what, I can't do it today, or I need to go for a walk. And we all, you know, trust in that once I've been for that walk or I've taken a bit of time, I can come back to it and go, right, I'm ready, I'm going to go again. It's not always like that, you know, and we have several back-to-back meetings this month, especially. We're Alton Park this weekend, and then at Anglesey, and then my colleague Luke and some of the volunteers are going out to Spa for a GT event whilst we're at Donington Park. So it can be very full on, and we can be going weekend to weekend to weekend. So we don't have the standard 9 to 5 and then weekends off. We all work long hours. We work weekends, but we love it, and it's quite twisted in some way. So like, yeah, I'm going away this weekend. Oh, where you go? I'm going to work. It's great, and it's you know, when you get there, it's that sense of accomplishment because all that work you've done during the week and during the off season, because there isn't really an off season for us. We're planning for next season now, and we're looking at things to improve for next season now. We're at the start of June. But there's so many things going on in the background, but those race weekends, that's what we do it for. That all that work that we've done, it's for that. It's for those weekends, those events. And you know, not everyone goes away with a smile on the face, but if the majority of people do, then you know, we've achieved something. And seeing that and watching Lyndsay deliver her podiums is just incredible. And it makes it all worth it.
No, absolutely. And then I've seen a question popping up a few times in the chat that I just wanted to ask you both quickly. A few people asking if you can get experience as an under 18. Is that something that people can do at the circuit, or what would you recommend if not?
So there are options. I know specifically with marshalling, they have Motorsport UK have a cadet marshalling program where under 18s can go and get involved in that. We are working on building something similar within the coordinating team. We actually have someone who's she's currently 15 at the minute, and she's fantastic. She really enjoys it. She's really built her confidence up in the short time that she's been with us. And it's been great to see her progress and to see younger people want to get involved. And I know Lyndsy's spoken to a few people as a result of her team who've said, can I come along and just see what you do? Yeah, of course. We're more than welcome. You know, anyone's more than welcome to come along and see what's in a race meeting, to see all the different aspects of it. It just depends on what you're looking at doing under the age of 18. But Motorsport UK are probably best suited to advise on the different areas that you can get the most experience. But I'm more than happy to speak to people to look at where we can possibly help out.
Well, luckily we have someone from Motorsport UK who can maybe advise a little bit more. How about you, Lyndsay? Anything to add?
No, I think Charlotte actually summed that up pretty well. But Motorsport UK website is an absolute treasure trove of information. It has any question that anybody's ever asked, you'll find an answer somewhere in there. It is massive. It has lots of different things, but I do think for under 18s, it is a little limited, but do your research, go on, see if anything on there can help you and takes your fancy. And even if it doesn't, try it. You never know. You might absolutely love it. Like I know people have started out clerking and then went to be, not clerking, started out marshalling and then ended up being a clerk and then ended up being a driver. And then actually they've done complete turnaround and went to be scrutineer. So you take your time, you get into it, and then you can build it up. But again, yeah, just see if there's anybody that you can contact in teams that might be able to help out. Yeah, there's nothing more to add on that.
No, that's perfect. Thank you both. Well, that's about all we have time for today. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined us today. It's been an amazing turnout with over 900 of you all participating tonight. Your engagement and enthusiasm is what makes these events so successful. I'd also like to thank Girls on Track UK and Motorsport UK for making this event possible tonight. And a special thank you to our fantastic guests, Lyndsay Close and Charlotte White, for sharing your valuable insights into both your roles. If you're not a member of the Girls on Track UK community, we'd love to have you join us. Our community is totally free to join, and we now have over 8,500 members. Joining is a fantastic way to stay connected and involved. The link to join and sign up to our mailing list will be posted in the chat very shortly. Once this webinar concludes, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a few moments to complete a quick survey. It helps us understand what our members would like to see in the future. And thank you once again for your participation. Keep an eye out on your mailboxes for news about upcoming events. My name's Ariana Ward. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event very soon.